Ready, Kathy?
Yeah, we're
Thank
ready.
you. Thank you. I will call this regular council meeting to order. Please stand for the pledge. Mr. Epperson, would you lead us tonight, please? Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Will you remain standing for a moment, please? Heavenly Father, tonight we ask for your blessings, and we ask that you will grant some peace and tranquility to the family of the slain Toledo police officer Anthony Dia. We also lost last week longtime resident and business owner Chuck Jackson. If you remember, he had the karate place up in the Kroger section there, and he was also quite the filmographer. He'd made quite a few little movies and was into horror flicks and King Kong type movies, and he was a great guy. So he will be missed, and so will longtime resident Jim Stout. So let's keep these folks and their families in our prayers. Lord, guide us tonight in our decisions, and we ask for all of this in your holy name. Amen. Hey, Kathy, roll please.
Carter. Here. Walter.
Here.
Epperson.
Here.
Barstow.
Here.
Hampshire.
Here.
Gaelic.
Here.
Lee.
Okay, almost a full house. We do have a quorum present. First thing on the agenda tonight is citizens' comments, but I think would you like to go ahead and do the interviews first or get the folks through?
Are they here?
They are.
Okay, so, yeah, Mr. Mayor, my preference would be the BZA interviews. Thank you,
Okay,
Mr. Mayor.
let's start with BZA interviews, and the gavel has been passed to President of Council, Mr. Barstow. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So tonight we have 4 people with interviews for the one vacancy on the Board of Zoning Appeals. So I'm going to ask somebody, Mr. Fulton, that's an appropriate job for you since it's BZA. If you could get Jenna Kennedy for us, please. Thank you.
Mr. President,
Oh, yes, Mr. Gaelic.
I need to recuse myself because I have a family member in the applicant pool, so
Okay.
I'm going to withdraw from the proceedings.
Sure, okay, very good. So, very good.
He'll recuse himself from all of them?
Yes, from the
Okay.
entire interview
Yep.
process. That's
Very
right.
good.
Yep. All right, good evening. Ms. Kennedy, if you would, hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello.
Ms.
I'm
Kennedy,
trying-
hi.
Thank you. I know. It's a
Uh,
little disorienting here. It's okay.
So, Ms. Kennedy, hi, I'm Todd Barstow, I'm the council, president of council. So if you could give us your name and your address and then tell us a little bit about yourself, and then council will probably ask you some questions. Thank you.
My name is.
I like how you threw your voice. Been doing that since you were a kid?
Jen hit mute.
Just hit mute. Little green light will come on.
Thank you. So I'm Jenna Kennedy. I live at 24 Town Street, and I am a paralegal for Huntington National Bank. I have over 4 years' experience in probate, estate planning, and real estate law. My fiance and I have been here for a year, and we've got a little 18-month-old, and we're really looking forward to raising her here in Tesla.
Thank you. Does council have any questions for Ms. Kennedy?
Jenna, I see your phone number is a 419 area code. Where is that from?
Lima?
Any other questions? None?
No.
Oh,
That's your question. So Jenna, what
inspired you, we'll go with inspired, to apply for this position?
So I would really like an opportunity to get involved in the city and being a part of how it's growing and what's happening, especially with raising our family here. Has a big part to do with it. My brother-in-law, I'm sure everybody knows, is Brandon. It's a joy to watch him do this and be a part of everything, and so I'd like to dive in as well.
So that was the garage sale I went to.
Yes.
Oh, okay, yeah, I remember.
You helped tremendously.
Any other questions? Mr. Representative? No? Okay, all right. Okay, Ms. Kennedy, thank you very much, appreciate it.
All right, thank you guys.
Thank you.
And for council's membership, or benefit, I don't know if you realize, I'm sorry, Ms. Delmindo Moore has withdrawn her name from consideration, so she will not be one of the candidates. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Fulton?
While we're waiting, I just have a question for everybody. When I get some feedback from folks that are watching the meeting, of course, they can't see the folks. Are we getting cameras, or are we getting anything to focus on the folks that are speaking? Have we discussed that at all?
We have had a meeting with Keto.
Okay,
We met with Keto to go over potential arrangements. We're still working on that.
okay. Thank you.
Good evening, ma'am. Hi, would you give us your name and your address, please?
Christine Lawyer, Howard, 617 Conine Way, Apartment A.
Okay. So could you tell us just a little bit about yourself, please? Thank you. Maybe why you applied, or anything you'd like us to know. Thank you.
Yes, I'm young to be living over at Conine, but I love it and enjoy it. I had a disability back injury probably 13 years ago, and I've been unable to work. I serve at the Board of Elections and find that nice and stimulating, and gives my mind that's fully functioning something to do that's a worthy cause. So that was my reason for applying, and I live close. So.
Okay. Council, any questions for Ms. Howard? Mr. Walther?
I have a question in general. In my packet, I did not receive a resume from, okay.
There was I think I don't think there was one.
There was a letter of interest that
That
I
was it.
submitted.
So just some background information.
Sure.
Maybe give us some information of what maybe you have as continuing education, whatever type of accolades you may have gotten, awards, that type of stuff that would have been included on a resume.
Sure. First in my class in real estate law. I sold real estate for about 11 years. Coldwell Banker, and then here in Pataskala, USA One briefly, and moved from Hocking Hills up here. I had previously, before going into real estate, I'd been into sales and property management, and thoroughly enjoyed every job I've ever had. So it's been to have a type A personality and not have any wonderful thing to put that into has been hard. So I actually really would appreciate the position greatly. And I have a sound mind. I like justice. I'm rational, I'm objective, and I think I looked up most of the requirements and some of the issues that the zoning board would be dealing with, and I think I would be a fair vote.
Well, Mr.
I
Walther,
have one other quick question, just to follow up on that. Have you ever served on any other boards, not necessarily here in Pataskala, but any boards that you've been a part of, a multi-member board?
I do serve at the Board of Elections for Licking County.
No, okay, you did mention that. Thank you.
Anything else? Any other questions? Okay, ma'am, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. I could tell what the voice was coming from.
Okay.
Thank you.
Throw in that voice again.
So yeah, I think Sarah McGuire is the next on the list.
A little blue light special right here. That's where it's coming from.
Hello, Ms. McGuire, how you doing? If you just give us your name and your address, please, and then just tell us a little bit about yourself and why you'd like to be on BZA maybe. And then council may have some questions.
Okay. Hello everyone, I'm Sarah McGuire. My address is 321 Mulberry Street, Pataskala, proud Pataskala. The reason why I am interested in BZA is because I have a specific interest in the economic development of our city. I've seen the financial strain that has been put on the city, and I know that bringing in more economic development would be a huge asset for that. That's what sparked my interest. And then also I've lived in Pataskala my whole life. So I have a really good comprehensive view of where Pataskala has been, how far it's come, some of the shortfalls it has, some of the great things it has. So I just really want to be part of making it better. So.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions? Ms. McGuire, any questions?
Sarah, I see that you were a recipient of the Girl Scout Gold Award, that a lot of people don't know is the equivalent of the Boy Scout Eagle Award. I read a little bit about this on here. What year did you win that?
1999.
So you would say you won it, not you earned it?
Well, I did earn it for sure. It was a lot of hard work, yes. But 1999. And nobody counts how old that makes me.
Any other questions? Anybody? Any questions? No questions? Ms. McGuire, thank you very much. We
You're welcome.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Mr. Martin. Hi, Mr. Martin, how are you?
Good, how you doing?
Great, fine. Would you give us your name and your address, please, and then just tell us a little bit maybe about yourself or why you'd like to be on BZA, and then council will probably have some questions for you. Thank you.
My name's Ben Martin, live at 210 Meadow Way, Southwest. Been a resident of Pataskala for the majority of my life, and work for the city of Columbus. Have have 2 kids, and I don't know what else I need to. Not used to speaking in front of.
That's all right. That's all right. That's okay. Anything else you want us to know? Anything? Why did you, I have a question, why did you apply to be on the BZA?
I care about the city and the way things are, and want to make sure that when appeals are done, that everything's trying to have a part of it, to make sure they're right, and try and become part of zoning, move up, and
Okay. Okay, cool. Anybody have any questions? Any questions? No? No? Okay, so Mr. Martin, thank you very much. We appreciate it. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Okay, take care.
Good.
Okay, Mr. Mayor?
Thank you, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I would say that each of the people that I met outside earlier, I did tell them what to expect, that the motion comes rather late in the meeting. They're welcome to stick around, but they could also go home or watch it on Facebook, and we would be in contact with them. So they're not stuck waiting out there, not knowing what to expect.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll be looking for, ask council to consider the folks, we have the packets that they submitted, and we have the interview, so that'll be on your 8C in the agenda. I'll be looking for a motion. Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Thanks, Mr. Heckman.
You're welcome, sir. Do we have this, are there any folks out front for?
No one that signed in, but I'll confirm.
Okay, thank you, Scott. I'll check and see if anybody's under citizens' comments real quick. Scott. All right, introduction, discussion, and approval of consent agenda matters.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Barstow, seconded by Mr. Walther. Discussion? And roll.
Carter,
Yes.
Walther,
Yes.
Epperson,
Yes.
Barstow,
Yes.
Hampshire,
Yes.
Gaelic,
Yes.
Okay, consent agenda passes. On to reports. I'll save my remarks for a little bit later. Mr. Barstow?
Oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, it's really necessary as a council president, but this is really a committee, but I'll do it at this point. The control audit. So, Mr. Nicholson and I, well, mainly Mr. Nicholson, but I kind of got the ball rolling by Mr. Walter had identified some potential folks. So we've identified a firm that we're talking to. Mr. Nicholson's provided them all the accountant geek that they need to look to see what they can do. They're going to come back to us with a proposal, I would imagine, scope
of
something, and some sort of idea what that cost might be, maybe some alternatives. So they were very interested in working with us. And I'm sort of seeing just the CCs on the emails now. We did have a telephone conference a couple weeks ago, 10 days ago. So we're all sort of talked about what we're going to do. So looking forward to that. That seems to be moving forward. So I would hope that at some point in the next month or so, maybe in August or September, we should have some sort of further information, some sort of proposal for council to take a look at. So this is sort of moving on. Jamie, anything?
No, I would expect, we told them it was not, mission critical right now. This had to be done because we have time. We have 6 years by the charter to get this done, however we want to get it accomplished. So the goal was, we reached out to them, had the conversation, and tried to give them the information they needed to be able to scope the work, how many hours it's going to take. The cost will be driven on what level of assurance we want to get at any audit. Basically, the more assurance you want, the more you have to test. The more you test, the more it costs.
Right. So we'll probably have a finance committee meeting, maybe with them to come out and speak to us, or depending on how it ends up, maybe they come out and make a brief presentation to council. Just so we can see what.
I would imagine the next 6 weeks.
Yeah, so I would anticipate probably before Labor Day we should have somewhere along there. It just depends. So that, I believe, let's see here if I have anything else. I don't believe I have anything else right now. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You're most welcome. Mr. Zetz?
I don't have anything, thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Timothy O'Higgin?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to talk a little bit first about Resolution 2020-022. That'll be on tonight. That is the resolution authorizing the air conditioning at the historic town hall in the upstairs in the theater. If you've ever been up there, it's unbelievably hot. I want to especially thank Chris Chirac, who has shepherded this through. I think we're at a point now where it's going to be a reality. It's been a long time coming, certainly. So I'm happy to answer any questions about that. I would also say that last Thursday and Friday, the final restoration of yards on the Main Street project happened. As you would imagine, of course, it could not happen without any mistakes, and so we have identified one or two. And we still have a couple of sidewalk pieces to replace and a little bit of a driveway that's gravel. But all of the restoration, save a little part of a square of 1 yard, is done. And so I'm happy about that, and I don't have anything else. I'm happy to answer any questions on any of the topics the council may have.
Anything for Tim? I just want to echo thanks, Chris and Tim, and everybody involved. I know Tommy, and we all went down and kept trying to push that through so we wouldn't lose that money to upgrade the theater, because that's going to be huge, and I'm excited about working with the young lady that has that runs the Midland Theater. She's going to come out and talk with me, and because I really want to focus some of my attention in the next couple of years on revitalizing the theater and that air. I mean, you got a hot day in March and it was hot up there, so it just wasn't conducive to doing anything. So that's going to set that place on fire. Well, hopefully not. Scratch that. No. we're gonna see some more action at the theater, so thanks, guys, for doing what you did on that and hanging in there, so we didn't lose that money, because that was, you know, we originally it was the elevator, and we knew the elevator was gonna be 800, so we didn't qualify. We went through all that stuff, and they said we could pick another project, and we did, and it's finally come to fruition, so thank you, thank you, thank you. Anything else for Tim? Okay, Mr. Nicholson.
Thank you, Mayor. You have my report. Included in the report were some documents from the audit. We ended the year, the 2019 financial statement audit, with a clean audit. There were no citations, findings, material concerns, which we're back on track, which I'm very pleased with. So there were a number of things in there, the communication between Mr. Barstow, myself, and the auditors, Mr. Hicken and I, and the auditors, and so I just shared that information with you so you would know the kind of communication that we have with our auditors, the representations that we make, you know, as part of that audit process. One aspect of the audit is that council has the option to basically decide if you wish for the auditors to come in and go over the audit, or, you know, you can ask the auditors questions, and that's called a post-audit conference. In past, when we have done this, we've done it at a council meeting during, like, I think, public comment. They come in and are here to answer any questions. Basically, I have to sign off to say yay or nay, either we are going to have one or we're not going to have one. So I guess I'm looking to this body to let me know which way you guys want to go.
I would say this to our new members. I found it to be very informative to have the auditors come and explain what they do, how they do it, and be able to ask them questions. It's not a lengthy process, but certainly that's an important part of the city is our fiscal soundness, and that's the end product of the check on that. So that's just, I throw that out there. If you want to have them come, they'll come. Again, it's not a lengthy process. As Jamie said, we do it during citizens' comments. We have them come as a guest, and then they're here to explain briefly and then answer any questions. So I'll look for council's pleasure on whether you want the folks to come or not. They don't charge us anything, I don't think. So.
No, it's part of the audit fee.
Included, right, it's included. One free visit.
I think it would be beneficial to do.
Yeah, I think it would. So, yeah, I think I'm hearing some out. So, yeah, let's have them come out.
I'll coordinate with Kathy in terms of when they can.
Absolutely.
You know, they may be in a busy season, or, you know, cycle, so we'll see.
Have them come. Okay, thanks, Jamie.
Okay, so I will let them know. I put on each of your seats at the dais a copy of the 2019 Comprehensive Annual Financial Report. For the new members, this is a municipal version of a corporation's annual report. We run our books on what's called a cash basis all year round. So we record cash when we get it. We record cash out when we spend it. Most corporate financial statements are done on what's called an accrual basis. So it's either when you owe the liability or you're due the money, those types of things. So we go through a conversion process at year end to take the cash basis financial statements and convert them to what's called full accrual. That's what these reflect. There's a lot of good information. If you only go through a little bit of it, I would highly encourage you to go through the notes section. The notes drill down quite a bit into what's what assumptions have been made, how they're calculating things. So the notes section, and in the back section called the statistical section. The statistical section provides you a lot of good information, demographic information, asset information, income tax growth, who are the top taxpayers, those types of things. So if you look at nothing else, I know you start looking at the core financial statements early on, and it's hard for me too. So, and I do this for a living. But those sections are what I would encourage you to at least flip through and review, because there's a lot of good information in there that's, unfortunately, it's kind of buried in the middle of the book with the notes. But the notes are a really good section for you to review. Todd already touched on the internal control audit. We're making progress on that. And I think that's all I have.
Anything for Jamie? Any questions? Yes, ma'am.
Jamie, I just have a question. It's something that I was reading this morning that made me wonder how, with our income tax and collections and things of that nature. I know that we haven't hit the deadline yet, so we won't know for sure for a while. But have we thought at all about what the implications of, if the laws are changed because of people working remotely?
Currently, under the emergency declaration, part of the law said, so if you are a Pataskala resident and you work in Columbus, so you're still paying for Columbus, during the emergency declaration, if you pick up and you're working from home, Columbus still gets your taxes. As long as the emergency declaration is in place, I'm not aware of the whole 20-day, occasional entrance rule or any of that. So until and when, if, that were to change, I would expect that we won't see a whole lot of change. What I do find interesting long-term, however, is that the workplace is definitely going to have some pretty seismic shifts here with people who in the past would have been said, you can't work from home. Well, now you had to work from home, and hey, maybe this works okay. So as people start working from their homes, we'll have to look at that, making sure that we're collecting income tax on those individuals. But currently, it stays with where they're employed.
Well, and I guess the reason, what really had me thinking about it was, because currently, our largest income tax employer, if you will, is the school district. And a large portion of those teachers do not live in the city of Pataskala. So if that were to change, if we think that would balance out with the other shift because we're a veteran community, and I know that you don't, have a crystal ball. If you do, I could borrow it maybe. But
there's some interesting things, and this is getting above my pay grade, but I know like Amy Origi, who's legal counsel for Rita, there's more to it than just literally where you're working. Like, Todd, you can attest to this. There's a lot of other tests you look at, and so the fact that you may be working out of your house, they may consider your employer still the school district, which has its office in Pataskala. So, but yeah, we'll definitely have to look at that if things start shifting that way, making sure that we're getting the revenue we're entitled to while not giving up anything.
and how we track it and just all the other, there's just so many unknowns with it that.
Absolutely.
Well, yeah, Jamie's right. If you're a teacher and you're a Heights teacher, but you live in Pickerington, but so you teach your third graders from Pickerington, but all your third graders are a big chunk of them are in Pataskala. I'd argue even one of them is in Pataskala, that you're functioning in Pataskala. Then we get to an interesting argument. Mr. Zetz may join in. I know he may tell me to shut up. But
I know nothing about
it's
this.
just I think that Jamie is right that there's been a change in how we're going to work, and working from home, where it was seen as something you couldn't do, is now going to be seen as something you could do. And I would assume that at some point the General Assembly, who is in charge of this, that the big picture on this will make some changes. From the legal, Mr. Zetz can talk about this in the legal business. We never thought we'd have remote court and doing things from. Right. So we have a judge. She was in the paper. A judge in Franklin County who's coming in remotely to court every day. I happened to be there the other day. She's at the big TV screen. We just never thought we would do that. So there's big changes. This pandemic has really changed how we work. So we'll see if the General Assembly makes those changes.
I think that's why they did with the emergency declaration, to leave everything status quo. But I think they're going to have to address.
That's why, for us, it's a little more ambiguous, if you will, because, like the city of Columbus, people largely commute to Columbus to work there. So they would definitely have, I think the impact on them would be clearly negative, right? Mm-hmm. For someone like us, there's a lot of unknown, and I don't like unknown, but that, it just, it really, I was thinking about that a little bit today with the situations and wondering, how it would pan out or whatever, so I didn't know if you've been given any insight or.
Not yet.
There's no upside to us for people working from home, because we're already taxing them because they live here, living in Vegas. So we only have to look at these remote the person who works here but doesn't live here. That's those are the people that would affect us. Everybody else doesn't make, it's making a difference. So.
Anything else for Jamie? Thank you, sir. Chris?
Thank you, Mayor. Tonight on the agenda, we've got resolution 2020-046. That is the resolution for the design of the Jefferson Street water line project to upsize the water line and eliminate a dead end in that area. I also wanted to talk a little bit about the lead and copper program. That's an annual requirement from the EPA. Every year we have to collect about 20 samples throughout the system. We're about halfway done with that now. We've got until September to get it complete, so things are looking good there. Leaks has been a common theme in my reports. I've got 3 more to talk about. 174 Old Mill Lane was a hole in the copper service line. When we dug down to replace it, we found the neighbor's copper service line sitting there, and so we went ahead and replaced that one. It wasn't leaking at this time, but we went ahead and replaced it so we wouldn't have to dig there again. We had a circular crack in a 2-inch water main at Poplar and Denison, and again, 2nd Avenue and Main Street. So leaks are popping up quite a bit this year. It's common ebbs and flows. Usually the winter freeze and thaw is our big source of leaks, but these leaks were out there, and so we had to take care of them. Just to let everybody know we have more leaks than we normally do. And the last thing I've got is attached to the packets. There should be 2 pictures of the Beechwood Trails water tower. The tower maintenance program that we recently entered into, the first tower to get painted was Beechwood Trails 1. There's a couple of before pictures and after pictures where they went through and treated the rust spots on the metal, did some touch-up paint, put down a primary base coat that is white in the pictures, and they put down the sky blue epoxy coat and put the word Itasca across it. So you can see from the pictures it was definitely due, but it was the first major project completed under the tower maintenance program. Outside of that, I don't have anything. Be happy to answer any questions.
Anything for Chris? I think our water towers are famous now. I've seen pictures all over the internet
Yeah, they look pretty good now.
of Mr. Hicken and Chris and our water tower.
I've never seen somebody pose in front of a water tower better than what I saw in
Yeah.
New York Advocate. I
Totally.
encourage everybody to look at that picture to get a chance.
Very inspiring. Okay, Alan, what you got for me?
Thank you, Mayor. Just 2 things tonight. First off is the 60-inch culvert on Cable Road. We approved that last council meeting through a resolution. That is scheduled to be closed and be replaced next week. When we get final word on the schedule for that, we'll put that out for public notice and put the message boards out. Expecting that to take about a week to replace a fair amount of construction involved in that. Second, the paving project. The paving started today. Melody Lane and Pat Haven were both repaved today. Blacks Road is scheduled for tomorrow, and then we'll follow that with Creek Road and Mill Street. Most of the paving should be done this week. They will have to come back to finish up some driveways, do some restoration and painting and such over the next couple of weeks. Happy to answer any questions.
In July, that's fabulous. Wrapping them up. Anything for Alan? Yes.
Alan, in the paving program, are you guys finding you're conservative with your estimates for replacement? I know that in a lot of the different roadways you had estimates for cutting out and patching. What are you finding out there?
So far, the full depth repair that we always build that as contingency. I have had not had to do any full depth repair yet. However, I've been putting that back in as some scratch course in some areas. We're finding after we mill, there's some alligator cracking, so we're doing some scratch courses to help seal that up and make the surface course last longer.
Great, thanks.
Sir.
Anything else for Alan? Okay. Scott?
Thank you, Mayor. Just wanted to give a quick update on my report, as reports went out prior to the Planning Commission meeting. Application TCOD 20001 was approved. That's for a car wash on Broad Street, just to the east of O'Reilly's. So that was approved on July 1st. Also, Scenic View Estates. I had sent them my comments for revision. They have sent back revised HOA documents, plans, and their development text, so I'm in the process of reviewing those to make sure they've addressed all our comments. However, we did get a curveball at the 11th hour in that faultless lane coming through Beechwood Trails, even though that was platted in the 70s, was never formally accepted by the county and therefore turned over to the township for maintenance. So based upon what we've seen, it's being plowed and maintained, however, it's not official. So the developer is working with the county to come up with a solution for that. I'd like to have that finalized and a solution made before we bring this back to council for consideration. Is if there's an access issue off Faultless Lane that they cannot resolve, then that change has the potential to change the layout of the subdivision. So before we move this forward, I want to make sure all I's are dotted and T's are crossed. Aside from that, be happy to answer any questions.
Anything for Scott?
But Scott, they're moving forward. I know for a while I was kind of like dealing with trying to push Jello around, but they're making actual progress.
That is correct.
Developer. Okay.
That was
okay.
correct. That after this last round of revisions, I'd hope we'd be ready, and then we got the curveball.
Well, it's not their fault that
No.
that never happened. But they're working with the commissioners. I would assume the engineer, county engineer.
The county
to
engineer, yes.
Get that taken care of. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Thanks.
Anything else for Scott? Yes.
Scott, do you have an update on the Patasko Square Shopping Center?
Yes, we were having some issues with them getting their environmental reports back. So we have gone through, they've been in contact with us, and they've shown me emails from their environmental folks that show, oh, here's what we hope to have it. Keeps getting moving back. So right now, we amended their abatement plan to August 1st to give them time to get that back, and then we can schedule a time for them to proceed with, I'm assuming it's gonna be demolition. So they have been working with us and keeping us informed. So they need to come back to us with a decision by August 1st.
But that doesn't mean demo starts August 1st.
That's correct, but at least they'll have the report back so that they can make the decisions they need to do in order to figure out how they're gonna go about the demolition.
Thank you. Anything else for for Scott? All right, thank you, sir. Lanier?
Thank you, Mayor. Got 3 things on my list today to share with council today. The first thing I would like to share is that Liberty Park officially will begin July 13th, next Monday. As a reminder, we got a 2018 NatureWorks grant for this project. They will receive a shelter house, a walking path, and there will be a playground inside of the woods there. So that project is set to begin July 13th. Second thing on my list I would like to touch on, Foundation Park aggregate-based walking path. It has been confirmed, and we have been circulating a contract around that the T.J. Evans Foundation or the Gibb Reese Foundation has committed to $38,000 for that project, along with the Licking County Parks District has committed to $38,000 for that project. The legal team has been circulating a contract that the final version has been sent off to both organizations, and we're hoping to have the resolution to accept that contract or to go into partnership with them for that project at our July 20th meeting. Thirdly, this weekend was opening week for the pool. We opened up Friday morning. I think Friday we had a total of 70 participants. So all weekend we brought in, I would say, a total of 175 total reservations. We were hoping to see more, but with what we had, I think it was a success. Our early sessions were the most hit. Our evening sessions, we ran into a couple hiccups here and there, but that has since been fixed, so there's no issues there. In the meantime, over the last, month since we've started this process, Mr. Hicken and I, and also Mr. Chirac, we've been working on water loss, and that was a topic of discussion early June. So that's some of the things that we've discussed. Today we had American Leak Detection out. We did have an analysis complete for the leaks that we have going on there, and currently there's 287 feet of failing floor wall seams, a couple leaks in the fittings, a couple leaks in the skimmer plates. In the meantime, from now until we're hoping to complete our season, we don't anticipate closing the pool to complete these fixes. We hope that we can get through the season and then figure out how we're going to devise a plan after we received our information today. Mr. Hicken and myself, most likely Parks Board, and maybe even Mr. Chirac will put our heads together as to how we're gonna fix it, when we're gonna fix it, and go from there.
Well, first of all, thank you for opening the pool. I know that was a lot of work. Chris, Lanier, Tim, whoever else was involved, maybe Alan, not sure, but listen, Mr. Walters' input from his history with the pool, thank you, because as I've said, you've heard me say before, the town needed something. Everything else was shut down or closed or canceled. So I was down there at around noonish on Friday. It was very calm, cool, and collective, and concessions was open, and everybody was having a good time. And of course, with 90s, man, it couldn't have been a better time to open the pool with these temperatures. So thank you. Did we have any rough estimate on? I know it just happened today, but price wise on these leaks?
On the leaks, yeah, between $10,000 and $11,000 for the leaks, just to fix what is going on now.
And you want to extend the season till when?
Right now, we have our schedule out until August 16th.
August 16th. Because obviously school, I think Southwest Licking starts, I mean, they're back to school, right? So
Yeah.
Okay. All right, anything else for Lanier? Yes.
So Lanier, so the company that came out, they estimate $10,000 or $11,000 to fix, that's all the leaks that you rattled off?
Yes, sir.
Okay. How much water are we losing to leaks if we know? Do we
Well,
know?
got a couple variations in numbers. I know Mr. Chirac has 5 years worth, and we did some calculations. So some of those calculations, I'll just turn it over to you.
Yeah, that'll work. What we did was last Monday. No usage was happening at the pool other than keeping the pool filled. So we did a water meter reading first thing on Monday, and then followed it up on Tuesday, 24 hours. What we found was that we were losing 16,000 gallons every day through the leaks of that pool, which turns out to be 480,000 gallons a month, on an average of 30 a month. I also ran numbers from 2015 on. 2015, for the whole year, the pool used 675,000 gallons. 2016, it dropped down to 581,000 gallons. I believe there was a repair made during that year. And then it slowly climbed every year. 2017 was 664, 18 was 717, and last year was 1,037,000 gallons. The pool has been open since, the water has been on since April, and as of July 1st, there's been 631,000 gallons going through the pool. So the leak's gotten significant, but it is not significant to a level that, as far as the water department is concerned, that we can't maintain service for.
So we can't call, for a short-term fix, we can't call Phil Swift, huh? You know who that is.
I do not.
That's the Flex Seal guy, okay? That's the guy who got the chicken wire and made the boat out of the Flex Seal paste. We can't get him down there?
There's a potential for us to do this in-house, for
Okay.
sure. There is a potential for us to do it in-house, and that's something that we were circulating and talked about today, is that one of the main reasons why we would like to hold off on doing any fixes, and then once the season's actually complete, it gives us an opportunity to do our post-evaluations and.
I mean, so I'll throw this out there. I mean, I think that we need to get the leaks fixed. I mean, with the short season, it doesn't make much sense to drain the pool, fix the leaks in whatever fashion, and then reopen the pool. I don't think that's the smart thing to do at all. But I think that come August 17th, we need to have look at that as a day to get the pool drained as quickly as we can. This is losing water, and that can't be good. For the pool, the integrity, for the structural integrity of the pool area, but then we need to find a way to get it fixed. My view of from the financial aspect is this. My view of the pool is the same as my view of Mayor's Court. I don't mind losing some money. We're not a profit. We're not a for-profit operation here. I don't mind losing some money on an operation that provides a service to the citizens, and both those entities in different ways provide service to our citizens, our residents, or businesses. So. I'm not worried about that so much. And I was talking to Mr. Hicken this morning, and I was concerned about what the number was gonna be on fixing all those leaks. And Phil Swift, you can buy that in the As Seen on TV at, you can buy that, I think, at the As Seen on
At
TV
Odd
section of
Lots.
Kroger. You get it at Odd Lots. It's there, okay? And maybe you can make one of those chicken wire boats, Mr. Crawford, and paddle it around in the pool. Anyway, I'm sorry, I just can't help myself. When I was talking to Mr. Hickett this morning, there's Lanier and his scuba gear at the bottom of the pool slapping that stuff up. But we do need to get that fixed, because as we know, seriously, no leak gets better over time. We know that the leak in your basement, the leak in your car windshield, the leak on the roof, they don't get better. And so I'm not surprised with the numbers from the water department that this thing keeps getting worse and worse. So we've got to get that fixed. So I think that's got to be something in your budget plan for next year, an action plan to get that taken care of. So I have no problem with approving funds and being in favor of approving funds to get that fixed, because I think the pool's a great asset to the community. I don't want to put some money into it. So thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Do you feel that, just from the time it's been open, that it's gonna be self-sufficient? Because if I'm out getting donations for the pool because there were no fireworks, maybe those donations can pay for the leaks. I don't know what you were thinking when I told you that I was gonna get some donations. I even mentioned a $3,000 donation to go towards operating the pool, but you said, I mean, you obviously have a count on how many people came in, and we're charging, what, $10 a person or something? Are we, besides the water leak, are we making money?
As of right now, it's too early to tell.
Okay.
Just because we did start employees 3 weeks early. We did not hit our 75 max in early session or evening session in either day. We did hit high numbers, but it's too early to tell.
Okay.
So I anticipate having a full month report, at least the first meeting in August, that'll have, I guess, a audit per se, where we are, where we were, and where we are now, which will give you guys an understanding as to where, financially where we are.
Well, I'm still actively looking for donations, and I know I have one for sure, so hopefully that'll help with maybe the leaks or something, so. Perfect. Yes, sir.
I just wanted to add a couple things. First, Mayor, thanks for fixing the, or at least listening to some suggestions on the website. Having a pool tab is really important. It makes it so much easier for people that aren't necessarily computer savvy, such as myself. The second one I wanted to offer was the amount of water, and Chris, you correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't know that you've taken into account the evaporation side of it. There is going to be evaporation no matter what, and it happens 24/7. And I did some calculations, for every inch of water that the pool loses in its surface area, both the kid pool and the big pool, is almost about 2,800 gallons per day. That's just in evaporation. And so last year we were losing between 1.5 inches and 2 inches of water. And the way you do this is you put it in a 5-gallon bucket, you let that go away, you measure what it is, and that's how you kind of calculate what you're losing per area. So we could lose anywhere from 4,500 to 5,000 gallons a day just in evaporation. So that just gives you, there's still a substantial leak, obviously, but I think some of the things that they found can be fixed even with the pool operating. Some hydraulic putty that can be put in while the pool's up. So I think we're gonna try to look at some stuff with Chris and Lanier to see what can be done to try to slow it down and not put thumbs or fingers in the holes.
No, I know there's evaporation and things like that, obviously, but we know we're losing. We've identified those issues. So
Mm-hmm.
I have no problem with if there's some things we can fix while it's operating, we can try to fix those and try to help somewhat. But if we can't, we can't. And we have a short season. We're talking about another month of operation. So, Mr. Hickenoff.
I would say from the very beginning, Jamie and I and Lanier sat down, and we've got a working idea of everything from salaries to, and I think Lanier's hit the nail right on the head. It is too early. 3 days in, it's just too early to know exactly what it means. I think when you look at the calculation, and thank you again to Mr. Sharrock and to Lanier, who sat down and went through, obviously if there's a leak in the pool, we should not be paying sewer for that because it's not going down the sewer pipe. And so we tightened up some numbers there. In the end, what I was most worried about was if a leak happened that was so catastrophic or so large that it just made it totally untenable from a price standpoint. I don't think that we're there following Mr. Barstow's theory, which is my own, that, you know, a little bit on the plus side, a little bit on the minus side, that's okay. I think we just wanted council to be certain of what we are finding, as much as humanly possible.
So I know there's a formula for evaporation. Is there a formula for cannonballs?
Transposition, yeah, no, there's not.
Mr. Epperson, go ahead, sir.
Just real quick, I know it still may be too early on this point as well, but were there any issues with kind of the process, how it was laid out, the amount of people that can come in versus swimming, things like that?
Social distancing wise, no, there were no issues. I mean, people had ample amount of space to enjoy their time there. In the water, from my time when I was there Friday for about the first session, we didn't even hit 40 in the water. And if there was close to 35 that I counted, they were all socially distanced apart. So we didn't have to worry about anything along those lines. We did have a few website issues, but those have since been fixed. Overall, that stemmed from other people trying to use their cell phones, but I would like to make it known that you must register for your accounts on a tablet, computer, whatever it might be first, and then after that it is mobile friendly. So just to reiterate that again, registering for your account online, do it on a computer. Once you have registered your account and your family in the computer, it is user friendly after that on your cell phones.
Appreciate that, thank you.
Yeah.
Anything else from the mayor? Thank you, sir. Chief Brooks?
Thank you, Mayor. We were notified today that one of our municipal court judges has tested positive for COVID. We've had 3 or 4 guys that have been in this court the last couple of weeks, but none of them closer than the 6 feet. So we told them all to monitor for symptoms, and we will go from there. That's actually all I have. Happy to answer any questions.
Everything okay tonight?
So far, so good, yes.
Very good. Anything for Chief? All right, thank you, sir. Committee chair reports. Mrs. Carter.
Yes, sir, we had a street committee meeting this evening. We touched on a number of things. Alan kind of hit the highlights of the regular agenda items that we go over. Some things, the information from the state, from ODOT, is not back yet as to whether or not we qualify for the Summit Broad intersection, so we are anxiously awaiting for that, that answer. Something that has come up is apparently, and also in the event that you get complaints or questions about this, the signal at the intersection of Watkins Road and Broad Street intermittently goes out. Alan, goes to flashing or whatever, and essentially come back. It's very, very old equipment that's going to need replaced. So, working on that, Alan has done quite a bit of legwork on it, and in a nutshell, you should see a resolution at the next council meeting. I have new signal boxes and a controlled left turn at that intersection, which will greatly help traffic control in that area and some traffic flow. And our officers as well, I'm sure. The cost is around $42,000. But with the amount of savings that we've had in the various areas, we're still well within where we should be, in addition to the amount that we're pulling back on the budget for the overall savings for the city. So we're still in good shape with that. And then we had a lot of discussion this evening about our impact fee progress and how we are moving on that, and reviewed Pickerington's resolution and, some more information from what we've discussed in the past about simply, we will not be able to apply an impact fee anywhere in the city. We won't be able to use that as freely as we had hoped. But we are working through that. The committee's going to kind of break it down, the resolution from Pickerington into sections, look through it, as we try to mirror it with our own, so we are ready to go when, everything's done with the comp plan. Get that moving. That's all I have.
Any questions or input for Mrs. Carter and Streets Committee? All right. Any other committee reports?
Yes, Mayor.
Yes.
I have a utility committee meeting, committee update. We had this on June 30th. One of the items, first item we discussed was the Jefferson Street water line project. The RFP that was, the RFPs that were received by Chris and his group. And we had a long discussion about making some decisions, with Hall being the best, as we thought, at least a motion that we thought were the best proposal. 2020 well cleaning project was the next item. We talked at great length about several of the proposals that came in, including Moody's proposal, which we are now waiting for some clarifications on that proposal. It may not have been the lowest proposal with the clarifications. Third item was the SCADA system, which is a communication system for the pumping stations. And the issue is we have some very outdated equipment. These walkie-talkies, for less of better, radios essentially, are very old, and we can't find them apparently for replacement. And we're looking at alternatives on what to use with the SCADA system. Fourth on the list was the EPA PFAS sampling, which is an, let's see here if I can put this, it is a material that was left over from Teflon, essentially, and it's in everything. Anything and everybody, quite frankly, has this material, this PFAS material, and the EPA is looking at how do we remove it from drinking water, municipal drinking water. And actually, we may, and Chris stresses this, and I'm going to stress it, because we may have an ion exchange softening system that is already removing this material to less than 1 particle per million, is that right?
And more than 99% removal rate.
99% removal rate, which is what the EPA is looking for. They're evaluating what level to bring this to. So we may have the equipment in-house already that is doing it. We're finding out if that is actually working that way or not, which would be great. Let's see here. We talked at length for this next item was water softening and salt providers, which we talked about. Chris has come back with an idea to go to the state contract, similar to what we use for salt for roads. Mr. Barstow brought up an idea that, you know, the existing supplier may be willing to meet that contract amount, maybe. Certainly worth looking into, since we are a weekly client. We must have, and this is a good supplier, obviously. We've used them for many years, and so we're looking into that, whether to go to the contract supplier or state contract supplier, or stay with the supplier we have right now. And lastly, or second to last, was the water tower maintenance. Obviously, Chris included some pictures of the first tower to be completed. Looks great, and we got some good reports back on the other tower also. And lastly, we did House Bill 163, which talks about out-of-state funding, or out-of-state water rates, and what the General Administration, General Assembly is doing, has passed regarding percentages of what your in-town versus out-of-town rates are, and how they're monitoring state funding for that. And Chris went into a great detail for us on where we're at with our rates for out-of-state or out-of-city. And those are based on our costs, our maintenance costs, our pumping costs, our electric costs, and so forth. So I think we're going to look into, and correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, we're going to look into see whether that is going to be justified under one of the exemptions for state funding.
Yes, sir.
So, very good meeting. We had a lot of information to go through, and I think it was a very successful meeting. I'll take any questions.
Okay, very good. Any other committee chair reports?
Mayor?
Yes, sir.
On July 1st, 2020, the Development Committee met and was expertly shepherded by Mr. Lee. He is at work right now, so he asked me to give the Development Committee update for him. The first thing that was discussed was a discussion on a TIF, specifically a TIF along the Summit Road corridor. Alan and Scott had met with Connie Klima. They talked a little bit about some of the pluses and minuses of that. There was a general discussion about the fact that at one end would be a commercial, possibly a commercial TIF. At the other end would possibly be a residential TIF proceeding north as you move up Summit. Eventually, the committee did make a motion to have Scott begin to draft the language for a TIF on the Summit Road corridor with a little bit of a caveat that I don't know if I made the motion, but certainly the suggestion that sometimes the people that might be benefiting from the TIF would help to pay for its writing, and that we would look into that. Meaning, if we were going to have an expert legal person help us with it, perhaps one of the people that were going to benefit from it on the corporate side would be willing to assist with that. And so that was the end of the TIF discussion, and we are moving forward with that. We then talked a little bit about a CRA expansion, specifically expansion of a CRA to encompass the area at the intersection of Mink and Broad. If you're traveling west, and it's the northwest portion of that intersection, that sits between two CRAs. And we have just a kind of a general discussion on, you could extend the one from the south, which would be somewhere in the neighborhood of the electric, the AEP, whatever that processing station, trading station is. There's also one north up a little bit towards Columbia Center, maybe, I'm sorry, that's all right, Summit Station, that comes down, and this little piece is kind of sandwiched. So eventually, what we decided was that there is a process for this, but we weren't sure exactly what it was, and the recommendation was made that Mr. Fulton endeavor to identify exactly what the process is, come up with exactly what's necessary, and it'll come up at the next Development Committee meeting. We moved on to the majority of the night was processing and discussing changes to the comprehensive plan. I believe that this was the smoothest of any meeting we've had so far as it relates to changes. We moved on up to section 2. We're ready for 3, and then 4 would be the maps. I have a note here that we're not asking for any specific comments from council right now, as we do have lots of comments on 2 and 3, and that's where the committee is. But we did reschedule the next meeting for July 14th, and that's when the Development Committee would meet again. 2 members are here, in addition to myself who attended, and Mr. Fulton. If there's any questions, council should feel free to ask. You won't have to forever hold your peace. There'll be many more chances to speak.
Anything for Tim? All right, thank you, sir. Anything else on committee chair reports? All right, moving on to old business. 4341 stays on the table.
Correct.
Okay. Any interest in taking 4354 off the table?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I move that we take ordinance 2019-4354 off the table.
Got a motion?
Second.
Seconded by Mrs. Carter. Discussion? And roll.
Hampshire,
Yes.
Gaelic,
Yes.
Lee, Carter,
Yes.
Walter,
No.
Epperson,
Yes.
Barstow.
Yes.
Okay. Off the table. What reading is this one? Kathy, do we know? Or do we count at this point?
We have completed our readings, and we're up for a motion to adopt.
Okay. Do we have motion now?
This is the one that I had 3 readings, the 4th reading, this is then be the 5th reading.
Yes.
So technically, you do have to have that 5th reading because it was amended on the
We
4th.
had that last week.
Is that?
I thought we did, because it came off the table and we put it back on the table.
Did we? Okay.
Yeah.
Alright, and
Yes, we already had the 5th reading of the last one.
Okay, so we just go into discussion, or does Kathy read it again, or?
no, I mean, we've had a reading, I mean, you
Okay.
guys had 5 readings.
Just go into discussion then.
If there's a motion to adopt,
Okay,
because you're not gonna have a discussion without the motion.
got you. It's off the table.
Right. Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
make a motion to adopt, ordinance 2019-4354.
Got a motion to adopt,
I'll second it.
and seconded by Mrs. Carter.
Gaelic,
Yes.
Carter,
No.
Walter,
Yes.
Epperson,
No.
Barstow,
No.
Hampshire,
No.
What were those again, please, Kathy? Would you read those off to me, please?
yes, Gaelic was yes. Carter, no. Walter, yes. Epperson, no. Barstow, no. And Hampshire, no.
So we got 4 noes and 2 yeses?
Yes.
Okay. Ordinance fails. Ordinance 2020-4368 for a second reading.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Barstow,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Epperson. Kathy, when you're ready, second reading.
Ordinance 2020-4368, this is the second reading, an ordinance to make supplemental appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures during the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2020.
Any discussion? Okay, resolutions, motions. Any motions tonight? Or you put that under D, didn't you?
Mr. Mayor, we're still in old business.
Okay.
We can go to new business.
Resolutions, motions, on to new business. Resolution 2020-22. Resolution authorizing and directing the city administrator to execute a contract with Columbus Heating and Ventilating Company to purchase and have installed an air conditioning system for the Sterling Theater.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Mr. Barstow and seconded by Mr. Epperson. Discussion? And roll.
Epperson,
Yes.
Barstow,
Yes.
Hampshire,
Yes.
Gaelic,
Yes.
Carter,
Yes.
Walter,
Yes.
Resolution passes. Fantastic. Resolution 2020-046, a resolution authorizing and directing the city administrator to execute a contract with Hall and Associates, Inc. for design services related to the Jefferson Street Waterline Project.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Walther and seconded by Mr. Barstow. Discussion? And roll.
Barstow,
Yes.
Hampshire,
Yes.
Gaelic,
Yes.
Carter,
Yes.
Walter,
Yes.
Epperson,
Yes.
Resolution passes. Now on the motions.
Mr. Mayor, I am looking for a motion to appoint one of our interviewees to the open position on the BZA. Mrs. Carter.
I would like to make a motion to appoint Ben Martin.
So, Ms. Carter has nominated Mr. Martin. Any second on that? I will second that.
You will second
I
that?
second that.
Okay.
So, Kathy?
Gaelic, oh, you recused it. Carter,
Yes.
Walter,
No.
Epperson,
No.
Barstow,
Yes.
Hampshire,
No.
So, Mr. Martin did not make it. So, is there another motion for one of the other interviewees other than Mr. Martin? Mr.
I'd
Walther.
like to nominate Sarah McGuire.
Mr. Walther has nominated Sarah McGuire. Do we have a second for that?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Ms. Hampshire. Kathy on the nomination of Ms. McGuire.
Carter,
No.
Walter,
Yes.
Epperson,
No.
Barstow,
No.
Hampshire,
Yes.
Gaelic.
Recused.
Oh, you're recused.
I believe that also fails. Is that correct?
Yes.
Do my math right? Okay, so that, we're starting to run out of applicants here, so that leaves Ms., we just have two, Ms. Kennedy and Ms. Howard. So do I have a nomination for either one of those?
Mr. Barstow, I'd like to
Yes.
nominate Ms. Christine Howard.
So we have Ms. Howard,
Second.
second by Mr. Walther. Kathy, roll on the nomination of Ms. Howard.
Walter,
Yes.
Epperson,
Yes.
Barstow,
Yes.
Hampshire,
Yes.
Gaelic.
Recused.
Oh, I see recused. Carter,
Yes.
Okay. Congratulations, Ms. Howard. I don't know if she's still here.
I told them all that they should feel free to leave. I'll
Okay.
check if you want.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Hickey.
I'm told no, there's nobody.
Nobody out there? Okay, thanks. Well, great. Congratulations to Ms. Howard, the new member of the BZA, and Mr. Mayor. Mr. Hickey, I'll get with her and get her sworn in and get her started. Mr. Fulton, there you go.
Just let me know when your next meeting is,
Great, very good.
and I'll come in early and take care of that.
Council, thank you very much for that. Mr. Mayor?
Okay,
Back to
thank
you.
thank you, sir. Well, if there's nobody out there, there's obviously no
I can
additional
confirm
citizens.
that last time.
Yeah,
all this
yeah,
stuff-
just double check. Additional citizens' comments, I don't know if anybody out there wants to speak, or we'll double check the lobby.
No one's out there.
Okay, thank you. So we'll go around the room, and kudos, Alan, to your department. I know it sounds small, but, it's a pet peeve of mine when we take the time to put up banners from the water district or, the Licking County Chamber or whatever, and they start to sag and look like crap, and the sun bakes them, and kudos to the department for going around and making sure that all the banners sound small, but it's important to me and other people that are trying to, with our graduation season, that was just about all you had was banners and getting the word out sometimes, and prime example was out here straightening up that banner from the Licking County Chamber. I appreciate it. Shop local is an important banner. Scott, if I see one more Barcelona soccer program sign, I'm gonna choke.
Okay, don't do that.
Okay. Yep. If I've seen one, I've seen 100. Listen, I know we've been a little lenient on a lot of our restaurants and stuff, but I don't think these guys are part of our area. When I see pole barns from Mansfield and mattress sales from Columbus and that kind of stuff cluttering up our, I get frustrated. Keep it local, like I just said. So, want to thank. Let's see, what's the name of their Real Church? Yep, Real Church out on that is based at Liberty Christian. Those guys came out on a very hot Saturday and spread some mulch. Thank you to Mr. Hicken for scrambling, and Jude for helping us out too on getting mulch. I want to thank the church. They didn't have a bunch of folks, but they stuck with it, and then so I want to thank them, and then also Classic Landscape for mulching the police station with the rest of the mulch. So if you see that guy around town, thank him profusely. We got the PD and City Hall mulched, and it's looking pretty good. So hopefully that'll hold us for a while too. So Tim and I had talked about, you don't know what's going to happen next year, and we put down a lot of mulch, and hopefully we may not have to do that next year. So Dixon Road, I guess Jefferson Township did their section. Is that correct with chip and seal?
I was not aware of that.
Did you?
Yep. So they put it down one day and brushed it off the next day, and it's in pretty good shape.
Excellent.
They alternate. We do part of it, and they do part of it.
Correct, we have the north and south portions, they have the center portion.
And again, awesome job with the pool. Thank you very much. Mrs. Carter had mentioned something, and I know it's not something that we talk about a lot, and I don't know if some of the newer members might be interested. I remember when Dennis Schwally came in and talked to us about CRAs and TIFs and all that stuff. I don't know if we need to do that again, or there's another person that could do that, but
I don't want to scare the new members off.
yeah. I know it's very complicated, and we don't talk about it all the time, and then all of a sudden it comes up, and as
Well-
Mrs. Carter stated, when a resident asks you, how do these CRAs and TIFs work and stuff, and it's a little confusing. If there's any,
I'll ask Mr. Nicholson to reach out to Dennis and see what his availability is over the summer, maybe come in and do a
Yeah.
guest
Refresher.
speaker, a guest speaker, he's very, very good at it,
Mhm.
guest speaker as a public comment.
I don't know if anybody else was on council at the time when he came in and spoke, but I needed it desperately, because I just wasn't up to speed on it.
No, it was not. The folks weren't, I don't believe.
None of you guys were here?
No, Andrew, were you? I don't think
No.
he, so.
I've been here 8 years, and
Yeah.
it was before my time.
Okay, so that was, I think I've only got one year or 1.5 or 2 years on you, and then all you guys came in, so, but it's good stuff to learn about that, so you can speak, when residents ask you a question about this kind of stuff and what we're trying to do and get stuff here in town. You know what, that's all I have. We'll start with Mr. Epperson.
I have nothing, sir.
Okay, Mrs. Carter? Mr. Barstow?
Just quickly, Jersey Church, my church, is gonna have a sports and arts camp, in Foundation Park in August, a little bit later than we normally have it, a little bit more abbreviated. We have to follow all the rules too, so, but, thanks to the Parks Department for helping us and making that happen. That's an important, event, for our church, so appreciate that. Thanks, Lanier, appreciate it.
We had a great meeting with the two ladies and
Right.
Lanier and Mr. Hicken and knocked it all out. And you've spoken with the health department to make sure everything's perfect, right?
That's correct, and I also put them in direct contact with the health department to make sure that the health department reviewed the plan and was told by the health department last week that they had, I don't know if the plan had finally been approved by the health department, but he told me that they had a good conversation and indicated that everything seemed to be moving forward.
I saw Penny at Wits, and she was very ecstatic that it was approved by the county, so we're good.
Yeah, it has been approved, because they rolled it out, late last week, I think.
Good,
So,
okay.
we wouldn't have done that if it hadn't been.
Approved by, and that was
Last
one of the
note.
things that I told her as well, so you're right, that works perfect.
Yeah, great, thanks.
And speaking of health department, I know I put a bug in your ear and our Lions Club has voted, if everything goes all right, to do the Antique Power Show in September. Have you mentioned that to health department, Chad?
I've
yet?
not,
Okay.
for the main reason of whenever you reach out to them, they want to see what your schematic is. They wanna see what your plan is. And to just tell them we're thinking about doing something,
Okay.
is almost incomplete. I just, from all the time we've spent during the entire COVID season, I think anybody who's dealt with them knows that the next words out of their mouth are, give me your plan,
Okay.
and I'll tell you. And usually we'll work with you, to identify, some things aren't gonna happen that used to happen, in any situation,
I'll get you the plan.
so, there you go.
Thank you. Mr. Gaelic?
Mayor, I have nothing.
Mr. Tax Expert Lawyer? Mr. Wetz?
Nothing.
Mr. Walther?
I want to thank Mr. Hicken for his hard work with the economic development portion of the city. As was stated this evening, it is a very important item for us, for the city in general. And I know Mr. Hicken's been working double time to try to work with some prospects, and hopefully those do come to fruition. So, again, I tip my hat. Thank you very much, Mr. Hicken.
I do have one thing, Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead.
before we move on. I know on Facebook there was a thank you, and a well-deserved thank you from citizenry to the mayor and Lanier for fixing the bridge. behind Bright Waters where I live. But I would also want to point out that it was the streets department that did a majority of that work. And so kudos to them. In the end, the goal, as I stated on Facebook, was to make it serviceable now and possibly in the future plan for withstanding some of the floods that have wrecked is too strong a word, but damaged it twice. But to have the gentleman from the street department come out and do that work and make it quite serviceable, I have my gratitude. And so everybody should be aware that those guys do double duty all the time on a variety of things.
Jude.
A couple things. I was very glad to know about the power show attempting to go on. One of my sons would like to help with the car show, and one of my sons would like to see about having a brick swap there. So
Very good.
there's 2 people that want to volunteer. And also wanted to remind everybody, don't forget that these kids that are working on their Eagle projects, they're still in a time frame, and they still have a lot of things they need to get done. So if you can help out with anybody there, and the least little thing can get them over that line. So don't forget your Eagles during this flags time.
Anything else?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Got a motion by Jude and seconded by Mr. Epperson. Kathy, when you're ready.
Epperson,
Yes.
Barstow.
Yes.
Hampshire.
Yes.
Gaelic.
Yes.
Carter.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Meeting adjourned.
Yeah, home alone, but.
We do have one.
That'll probably be,
It's your name, but,
plus some stuff in that capital. Legit plan.